Welcome back to the 42nd part in this Python series on the Django web framework. In this one we're going to sort of move on from the accounts app for now, although of course we can always come back to it if I find something that's broken or needs tweaking slightly later on. But I think for now it's gotten to a point where it's actually quite functional and it's pretty much good enough to be able to start developing the sort of core of our application now. So what I'm going to do to sort of separate the two, sort of the accounts and the actual functionality of the app itself, is I'm going to create a separate what's called Django app to do that. So we have our Django project and our accounts Django app is its own sort of well, it's a Django app, it's just its own little module if you like inside our project, and we're going to create another one of them in this video, as well as doing some sort of setup and preparation for us to be able to continue to work on our sort of new Django app in the future, so maybe configuring URLs and doing stuff like that. Let's have a look then at our project, and firstly I want to do some cleanup. So with the URLs that we have at the moment, we've got URLs, I think we're in the accounts app at the moment, and we've got some URLs in here, like for example the home page, but this page is sort of going to be one of the ones that we want to have access to in the new Django app, so I don't really want that URL here necessarily. So I'm actually going to get rid of this for now, and I'm also going to get rid of the corresponding view, as well as this home view. And in fact this home view is just a demonstration of how you can pass variables into a template, if you remember that video. So we really don't need this anyway, it's just sort of an example. So I'm going to get rid of that because it's just superfluous at this point. And I'm also going to get rid of the template that corresponds with it. So it's actually this home text just here. So now that I've deleted the view, I can delete that as well. So this is just stuff that I'm deleting because we don't need it anymore, because we're going to replace it with its entire own sort of separate Django app, if you like. So what I can do now is, I think we've done the URLs, so we can actually create the app that is going to be replaced by, essentially. So I'm going to go to the terminal and I'm going to say Django admin, because if you remember from the last video I actually showed you how to change it from python manage.py to Django admin, and I made an entire video talking about all the different ways you can run the server. So if you haven't seen that and you're confused as to why I can use Django admin and you might be getting some sort of error, then check out that video instead. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Django admin start app, I think it is, and I'm just going to name that app. So I'm going to say home, because this is the app that is sort of the core of our application, if you like. And this is really going to be sort of like a Facebook clone, I guess. So users can create connections between each other, post, and other users can see each other's posts and stuff like that. And we'll have a form to allow them to post content on the homepage and stuff like that. So a really sort of simplified version of Facebook, I guess you could say. So I'm going to create that, and now that should be done. So I can do ls to see it in the terminal, and now we've got a new app called home. I could do ls home to see what's inside that, and we've got some sort of default Django stuff. And if you go over to my editor here, you can see we've got a new folder. The green is recognized by Git as being new files added to this repository. So that's all been picked up. And now we can see, if we say for example use our Django app, nothing is really going to happen. Well, partially because I haven't run the server, but we haven't actually finished yet. So I haven't run that yet. So I'm going to run the development server just to show you where we're at the moment. But we are going to need to do some stuff to be able to fix this now. So page not found, that's fine, we've deleted the URL, but what I want to do is I need to add this to the installed apps and configure the URL. So anytime you create a new Django app, you want to add it to the installed apps list in your settings, whichever settings file you happen to be using if you're using multiple settings files, and you need to configure the URLs, the main URLs file, to be able to point to that new Django app if you actually want to connect any sort of websites, web pages using that Django app. So I'm just going to do the settings first. So if we go into our settings and find the installed apps, so it's near the top here, and I'm just going to put it under accounts, and I'm going to say home. So now we've got a home app in our repository. It's actually been installed, so that's quite a simple installation process, I think. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to configure the URL. So we've got admin for the actual admin site, and we've got account, which is for the account's URLs, which we've been working with so far. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy and paste this because I don't need to type everything out again. It's very similar, so I'm just going to say home, home.urls, and the namespace for this is going to be home, so just to keep it consistent. And I think that's all we should need to do for now. And when I go to try to include those URLs, it's going to be looking for a URLs file, so in home.urls, so we're in our home folder, but we haven't got a URLs file, so we actually need to create that. So what I can do is I can just look at what we've got here. So all we need to do is import URL, and then we can just define a list for the URL patterns. So if I create a new file here, I can say urls.py, and from django.conf.urls import URL. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to define the URL patterns, which is equal to a Python list, and it's a list of URL calls to the URL function that we've imported. And as you know, that starts with a regular expression. So for now, I'm just going to say it's going to start and then stop. And let's see. So we could point it to a view to test it if we like. So I think I'm going to do that. So let's say home.urls. Actually, let's say views.home, just to make a simple view function, just to check that it works. And I'll give this a name equal to home, just for now, because I'm pretty sure we're probably going to end up replacing this later at some point. But I'm going to say def home, and this is going to say self. In fact, it doesn't say self, it's not a method on a class, so I'm just going to say request, and return HTTP response. This is just a really simple view just to check that everything's working, that the Django app is connected and the URLs are actually handling properly. So I'm going to say it works. So that's the only reason I'm doing this. It's not going to be a permanent view, or at least not without extensive modifications. So I think that should do. We need to import this. So to import that, it's from django.http import http response. And this is really one of the simplest responses you can do, and it's really good for just checking stuff works. So that should be connected. Now we've got the URLs. If we go to /home, I've probably done something wrong, but we'll find out in a second. So it cannot find the module named home.urls. So I'm just going to try and restart the server to see if that helps. And now we get views is not defined, so that's coming from our URLs, I believe. So it just says home/URLs, and it says home.views. So we need to import the views because we haven't done that. So from let's see. So from home.views import home, or we could in fact just do from home import views. Because if we did from home.views import home, then we wouldn't need to say views.home. We could just say home. But I like to be explicit and say exactly where it's coming from. So it's coming from the views, just in case we had other files which we were importing stuff from. So now let's see what that does. So now it's all working. So if we refresh this, we get a really simple homepage. So in the next video, I think we're going to make it so that it looks like all our other pages. So using that base.html base template, and let's go from there.